Hello everybody, my name is Grace and today I'm going to continue the book Who Was Charles Darwin? Chapter 4 To the Galapagos. By the summer of 1834, Charles had been gone nearly 3 years. He'd explored many wild places. He'd visited Patagonia, Rio de Janeiro, Uruguay, and Buenos Aires. As the Beagle reached the southernmost tip of South America, Captain Fitzroy steered the ship carefully through the Strait of Magellan. The Beagle entered the Pacific Ocean safely and sailed up the western coast of America. The trip had been full of adventure and danger. One time, Charles and other sailors were on Tierra del Fuego, an island near the southern tip of South America. Suddenly, a huge piece of ice fell from a nearby cliff. When it hit the sea, the waves rose high. Charles thought quickly. Together, he and a sailor rushed to pull a small boat farther up the beach before it smashed by the waves. Captain Fitzroy stopped the town of Valparaiso in Chile. The Beagle needed repairs. Charles was glad for some time he had on land. He was eager to get letters from home. Charles walked all the way to Santiago, the capital city. On the way back, he became very ill and was sick for 6 weeks. Up to this time, Charles had been a healthy young man. After this, he had stomach problems, and for the rest of his life, Charles longed to go home and almost sailed back to England on another ship. Soon after, for the first time in his life, Charles saw a volcano erupt. He also experienced an earthquake. He was so excited he could barely sleep. For months, he had been reading Leo's book about the Earth and how Earth had been formed by natural forces. Now, Charles and this for himself. He felt the earth shake. He saw cracks open in the ground. He found bits of seashells at top of hills. Now, had they gotten there? He felt sure that long ago the land had been underwater. He thought that the hills had risen up over time after volcanic eruptions. Charles was right. Charles was sure. Leo was right. Natural forces like volcanoes had changed Earth in the past, and the Earth was still changing. Charles climbed up high into the Andes Mountains and took everything with new, curious eyes. The shape of rocks, the valleys below, the gravel at his feet. He tried to imagine the past, when these mountains had been pushed up from the sea by volcanic forces. On one peak, Charles stopped to look at the glorious view. The sky was an intense blue. Wild, broken rocks and lay below him. Patches of snow shone from other peaks. More and more, Charles was seeing the world as a scientist. The beauty of nature always moved him. After leaving South America, the Beagle continued westward. The next stop was the Galapagos Islands, off the coast of Ecuador. The Beagle arrived there on September 15, 1835. This was the high point for Charles. He was eager to see the amazing creatures, volcanoes, and lava fields of the Galapagos Islands. Although few people had lived on these islands, for years, whaling ships have stopped to hunt and fish. Sailors were fond of capturing the giant Galapagos tortoises, which were a good source of food. They could stay alive in a ship's hold for months before being eaten. Charles was fascinated by the giant tortoise. Males can weigh up to 500 pounds and measure 5 or 6 feet from head to tail. It seems to Charles as if they were creatures from another planet. Charles set out to explore. He found strange marine iguanas, which slept on warm rocks in the sun. When they got hungry, they crawled into the ocean to feed on seaweed. Charles had never seen a swimming iguanas before. He wondered how these creatures, so different from any other, had come to live here. The Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands lie in the Pacific Ocean, 600 miles west of Ecuador. They consist of 13 major islands and 6 smaller islands. The word of Galapagos means tortoises in Spanish, which many species on the islands live nowhere else on Earth. About 14,000 people lived in Galapagos. Each year, thousands of tourists visit, but unlike Charles Darwin, they can't take specimens home. The Galapagos National Park protects the islands. Charles was the first scientist to visit the Galapagos. Today, scientists at the Charles Darwin Research Station follow in his footsteps. So that's all of chapter 4, and I will see you in chapter 5. Bye bye.